Hello friend and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Mac Guerrero. Thank you so much for joining me. So this week our video was a little bit late, so I decided to come out with two videos. So go ahead and check out the two new videos that I've got for you. And of course, like, subscribe. Before I get into my review of Trolls, I'm just gonna remind you guys that you can follow me on social media. I have a TikTok, a Facebook, an Instagram, and you can find me at Mac Guerrero. You can also check out mysticalmac.com for my nearly daily blog, as well as information about my podcast and a little bit about my tarot card readings. Now, before I get into this, I want to create a little bit of a disclaimer. I did love the movie. I thought it accomplished everything that it needed to. I am going to go into the nitty-gritty of it, the themes that I caught, the things that I thought were well done, anything that I thought that could have used work. So, if you're just here because you want a reason to hate on the movie because you already hate it and you want to hate on people who loved it, this is not the video for you. However, if you want to keep on engaging with this video, go for it. YouTube just counts that as engagement and that helps me out. So, without further ado, let's talk about Trolls World Tour. Now, I loved the first Trolls. I thought it was a really beautiful message for happiness is already within you, and it's something that is very attainable, and when it doesn't feel like it is, having the people around you to provide you with love and connection is a great guide to that own inner happiness that you can find within your own heart. Now, what I love, I was very disappointed with Frozen 2 in the sense that the movie, in my opinion, was really sweet, but they really lacked on the music, and I was kind of bracing myself for Trolls World Tour to be the same, where I love pretty much a lot of the movie, and then this one very pivotal aspect just kind of flops. And I was wrong. I am so pleased with what they did. First of all, I love Rachel Bloom, Queen Barb. Hello, I love Rachel Bloom. If you guys love Queen Barb, just check out Rachel Bloom's Crazy Ex-Girlfriend show. It's just so funny. It's great. I love it. If you're into musical theater, you'll love it even more. So that was a great idea. I love that. The second I saw her name, I was like, this is going to be good. And there's going to be a lot of music, which I was right, there was. And I'm really happy about that because the music was some of my favorite parts of the first one. So it actually brought a movie that you can see without ever having seen the first Trolls. Now, I would still recommend that people do go and see the first Trolls before they check out World Tour. However, I love that it's kind of the standalone movie. It speaks for itself, and it says a lot about the movie in and of itself, that it can't stand alone without its predecessor. So now let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. I actually have notes. And by the way, I did this makeup just so I could talk about this movie because the rainbow, if you've seen it, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about spoilers. So, Poppy and Barb get the rainbow situation at the end. So I figured I'd do that. And of course, I love Poppy. Queen Poppy is literally my favorite character of all time. So the pink, of course. The only thing I didn't do was the pink nose, and I did do that with my roommate. We had a viewing party. You bet your butt that I turned myself into Princess Poppy, Queen Poppy, and I gave myself a pink glittery nose. It was great. All right. So I've got some notes here. Now I'm gonna start with the overall theme that I caught in this, the overarching thing, and that is that differences must be honored. Differences are neither things that should keep us apart, but are not things that should be ignored either. In fact, differences are the best when we can take each other's differences, accept them, and actually find where we relate to that difference, and in that way we sort of integrate the differences of others into ourselves, and we are able to actually truly love others, meaning we are able to really take others as part of ourselves, which is what truly loving a thing or a person or an animal, whatever it may be, really is. To take something as part of yourself. This is the reason why breaking up with someone feels so hard, why when a loved one dies, it's so hard, because you're literally losing a part of yourself. You've taken that person in as part of yourself, and so now you are actually able to act in their best interest. So differences, when they are honored and accepted and truly seen, can actually help you really really find that love and ability to take another person as part of yourself. So I love that message of, yes, we are all the same on a certain plane, and that should be honored, because that also helps us take others as part of ourselves. You know, we are all human. If I were to really truly take every human as part of myself and think about, wow, they have the same qualms that I do, wow, they have the same struggles that I do, wow, they probably struggle with the same psychological things that I struggle with psychologically, I'm way less likely to act in a way that pushes that person away, because I have got this idea that they are part of me, right? But differences, where at first they can seem to separate us, can actually be something that bring us together, and that is what Trolls World Tour, I believe, is trying to say as a whole. Now, some details into this, like another thing that I really love is this idea that this theme of bringing about like the fear of a new thing, or the fear of differences, right? King Papi actually tries to stop Poppy from finding out what Queen Barb is all about, when Queen Poppy actually wants to give Barb a chance. She in her own Cupcakes and Rainbows perspective, everyone has love for everybody else perspective in my world, thinks that Queen Barb is actually trying to unite them, when truly, while Poppy is not seeing the differences between them at all, and that's detrimental, Queen Barb is only seeing the differences between all of the different tribes of trolls. And so both of their perspectives are very detrimental, and I love that we see that very early on. Queen Barb is seeing their differences as this thing that's like, well, oh my god, like, we're too different, we have to be united under one thing, and it's gonna be the thing that she deems best, rock. And Queen Poppy is like quite literally not seeing that there is a difference there to be honored in the first place. So anything that she comes with at Queen Barb is basically going to be what Queen Barb is doing to people. Poppy is not seeing that the rock troll's difference must be honored. So, you know, she basically dresses up Barb's little rock bat in a pop fashion, just thinking like, oh my god, this is so much better. Like, because she doesn't understand that Queen Barb's differences is actually what makes her individual and what makes her what she is, which is a rock troll. And that is okay, and that should be honored. And it's okay that Debbie didn't come with glitter and a bow and some eyelashes when she delivered the message. You know, and if Poppy were able to really see and honor the difference of the rock trolls, granted she's never met a rock troll, so it's not like she could really do that anyway, but you know, had it been a different situation, maybe after the movie, she would never try to dress Debbie up in something that that Queen Barb would see as like glitter and frou-frou, because she knows what Queen Barb likes, and that's the rock and roll style. So I love that King Papi is like this metaphor for the elders kind of wanting to stay in the past and wanting to stay in what is quote quote safe and what is quote quote familiar, whereas King Papi or Queen Papi represents this newer generation, maybe not even younger, but just this newer wave of people that do want to find out what's out there, that do want to learn about others and really unite with different kinds of people. So that's really cool. And then of course how those two perspectives, how Queen Barb's only seeing difference and Poppy not seeing difference at all, only seeing that they are all trolls and trolls alike, how those are both really detrimental, how it, you know, how it's really in the center of the Venn diagram that we get the magic and that we get the acceptance and integration that we need to function as a society that can honestly honor each other's differences and benefit from them. So next, let's talk about one of the things that I was really kind of like, this was probably the only part in the movie that I was like, this is like really cheesy, and this is like, I've already seen this in Frozen 2, and that was the, I don't know how to tell her I love her trope. That we had. That was really dramatic. I'm not even gonna apologize. I'm a dramatic human, but like that was really dramatic. But really though, like it's pretty dramatic how we find out about this with Branch. And I just like, one thing that was a little annoying about that was like, they kissed at the end of the last movie, so I just thought that that was a thing that was gonna be a thing. But, that cheesy little trope was done a lot better in this movie than it was done in Frozen 2. I realize I'm like comparing Frozen 2 a lot. I should probably just do a Frozen 2 one. I don't know, whatever. If you guys want me to do a Frozen 2 review, let me know. If you don't, I might still do it. So, either way. So the don't know how to tell her I love her trope, like, kind of a tired trope, but it was fine. It worked out, and it actually turned into a vehicle to help Poppy grow. And I really love that. So they took something that I was kind of annoyed with at first and then was like, oh, this actually turned out to be a favorable thing to happen in this film. So Branch, not knowing how to tell Poppy how he feels about her, basically that he loves her, kind of gets into this pattern of not really giving it to her like it is and giving her that tough love that she might need sometimes. So Poppy's just kind of like going about in her own little world and not really listening to anybody and not seeing Queen Barb for what she is. And when she finally starts to see Queen Barb for what she is, she still doesn't really like gather the full scope that she can't stop Queen Barb by herself and that she needs to go take care of her troll village. And she doesn't listen, and of course she gets reprimanded for that by the consequences, right? By the circumstances that happen. However, the trope of don't know how to tell her I love her with Branch and Poppy turns into a mechanism for Poppy's character arc when we start to see how different, or rather Poppy and Branch start to remark on how different they are from each other and how that's bad and how that could never work. And that's the moment where Branch kind of like, basically, because being on good terms with her is out the window, he's like, okay, well, I'm not on good terms with you anyway. I might as well let you know you haven't been listening. You've been totally blind and deaf. And this really sucks for me because I thought that our differences was something that couldn't help us and make us stronger, but it's not. So I'm just going to walk away now, and thank God I said all this. And then, of course, the last thing that he does say to her is he lets her know that she is the person that he seems to care about the most in the world, and so this tension created by this tired trope is actually part of, I believe, what leads to one of the great revelations for Poppy, because in that moment when her and Branch part ways, she realizes like, oh my God, like I actually really love this dude, and B, she realizes like, oh well, great, he really loved me, but I messed that up because I wasn't listening. And basically, like, it really sucks getting told something at that point where you've already messed it up beyond repair, like your friend, like you're completely oblivious to a friend of yours and you're just being really not cool all day, and you kind of take your frustration out on that friend, and they had a plan to come over that night, and now they're really not feeling it because literally all day you've been in a mood and you've tried to tell them, but it just hasn't really worked, and finally you just kind of pop and you're like, yo, I was really like wanting to come hang out with you tonight. Like I had margaritas made, whatever, and I'm not really gonna do that anymore because I've literally tried to talk to you about how I've been feeling the whole day, and you haven't even listened to me. And so I feel like that's what happened with Poppy. Like she's like, oh wow, I haven't even considered anything that he's been saying, and now it's too late to consider anything that he's been saying because I've not listened so hard that he's at the point where he's given up. Right, so that trope actually ended up turning into something that I think really helped Poppy in the long run. So let's see. One thing that I really love, and this is a staple of, in my opinion, a great script, is when things don't get bypassed, like when there aren't holes. And holes can be tiny or they can be huge. Batman, Superman versus Batman had like a huge hole, which is basically like all it took for Batman and Superman to like make up was the fact that their mom had the same name. Like, so plot holes can be really large or they can be really tiny. But Trolls World Tour seemed to have pretty much none. I say pretty much because can't say for sure, haven't seen it a million times. I've seen it probably 3 times. Yes, I rented it for 48 hours, and yes, I watched it 3 times within those 48 hours. No shame. So, and I said no shame just now, by the way. I'm really trying to make this kid friendly, so if you haven't noticed. So, okay, so we talk about nothing missed in the script. Like, literally nothing was missed in the script. There was, like, a random instruction manual for the balloon that they use to travel with. That gets thrown off the balloon. That somehow comes back. Let's see. The yodelers get mentioned. And then they just, like, disappear for a while. And then we find out that there's, like, actually Hickory is a yodeler. So that's cool, you know, like the yodelers do pop up, and we are told, like, if anybody can find Poppy, it's the yodelers, and they're right. It ends up being the yodelers, which you just think, because obviously, like, Branch voices his intuitive concerns about Hickory and how he's like, this guy's scratching me out, I don't really know. And of course later it turns out that he's a yodeler. The manual, and then one thing, I actually only caught this the second time I saw the movie that I really love, the one, okay, two things. There are two people that Queen Barb, other than her father, that Queen Barb, like, actually mentions and addresses a lot, other than her father. And one that is Riff, which is her drummer, which makes sense because the drummer, like, sets the heartbeat of the music, right? So, like, that would make sense that he's her second in line. Riff, and then Carol, which gets mentioned when Barb is talking about having friends, having girlfriends and real friends, and it's Carol. And Carol has this, like, you know, canned cheese, like the cheese that sprays out like whipped cream. Yeah, she has that. And there's a point in the movie where Barb is like, I have friends, right, Carol? And Carol, like, doesn't even answer her and literally is just, like, playing with the canned cheese. And then at the end, when Poppy and Barb become friends, actually, and Barb's like, yo, Carol, we got a girl group now. And, like, Carol, like, takes her canned cheese and is like, nice, and, like, tosses the canned cheese. And so she's basically, like, this is, like, a little metaphor, I think, for, like, her canned cheese addiction has now been cured because she's replacing it with the connection of actual true girlfriends. So I thought that was really cute. But the fact that Carol gets mentioned again at the end, which is really cool. And then the fact that Riff, we come back to him time and time again. One time when he helps Barb's dad, like, reach the rock and roll sign. Another time where he weighs in on something. And then at the end, when he weighs in and says that Queen Poppy might have a point when it comes to honoring differences and not trying to, quote, quote, unite every single troll nation under rock. So I love that. Nothing gets missed in the script. I respect the shit. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not meant to have videos where I don't curse in them. It's fine. I respect the shit out of that. Okay. We're almost done here, guys. I'm so excited. Okay. Next, I really, really enjoyed the idea, first of all, like, you know, there are a lot of marginalized races, and I mean, I'm not even white. Like, I'm a white-looking mixed girl, and I don't even think I look super white, but I definitely, you know, I look white-ish for sure. But I've never really experienced marginalization hardcore like a lot of people that are mixed have. But of course, you know, and the reason I'm saying all this is because the way that Trolls did it was very kind of quote quote black and white, no pun intended. But I like the way that they did it. It was the only really way to do it. There was no way to do this with like every race pitching in. I love the fact that when we learn about the lore, right, about the lore of the Six Strings, when King Pappy tells the story, he tells a story of how the trolls were fighting amongst themselves and they couldn't make a decision. And so all of them just took a string and split off, and it was a mutual decision. Now, what's interesting is that he also shows the pop string, and it's on the original harp. So I didn't think anything of that. I mean, I remarked it when I first watched the movie, but I didn't really fully think anything about it until we meet up with the Funk Trolls, which is where Cooper's from, right? Super cute. So until we meet up with the Funk Trolls, and the Funk Trolls actually set the story straight. And now if you do your research, and even you can hear it in their voices, the Funk Trolls are largely voiced by Black and or African American artists. And as you know, the pop trolls are largely voiced, with a couple, exceptions, by Caucasian artists and artists of other races. Um, I believe Cooper is voiced, though we know he's a funk troll. He is voiced by an African American artist, black artist. There might be another one that I'm missing, but for the most part, you know, they're white or they're another race. The pop trolls, and when the funk trolls actually end up setting the pop trolls straight, and they actually end up telling us what really happened, which is validated by the fact that the pop trolls have the original harp instead of their own instrument where they connect their string, because the rock trolls had, a rock and roll looking guitar, the funk trolls had like a funky looking guitar, the classical music trolls had their string in the conductor's wand, and then I'm sure the other ones, so the pop trolls were the only ones who had the original harp. So when we learned that what actually happened was the pop trolls got cocky, the pop trolls started to take everyone's music and make it their own without properly crediting, and they wanted the harp for themselves all the time. That's when all of the other leaders decided to basically take a string and run away. And we find that validated in the fact that the pop troll string was on that original harp. And I love that it's this idea of the black African American sort of trolls setting straight the history that the white trolls have perpetuated, essentially, the mostly white trolls have perpetuated. And one of the lines that are literally my favorite is, one of my favorite lines is that those scrapbooks are cut, glued, and glittered by the winners, right? History is written by the winners, and essentially it's like the marginalized, the oppressed, is setting history straight to the oppressor. However, much differently from how it's being done in this day and age, I believe it's being done with the intention of love, and it's being done with the intention of righting a wrong. And not necessarily making the ancestors of the wronged feel like they have this penance to pay until an indefinite amount of time. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really sweet. Like, literally the song that the funk trolls sing where they're explaining all of this is sung in all love, and I love that. And now my last point, my last little tidbit on Trolls World Tour. Even the first movie surprised me, and Trolls World Tour surprised me as well. I had no idea how it was going to end. And this idea of, the strings essentially getting dissipated, essentially the strings getting destroyed. And what ends up happening, again, the black trolls, right? Because and it's interesting because black music that stems from black culture and African American culture tends to be very drum centered, percussion centered, very soulful, very full of heart. Some of the most grounding music out there is hardcore hip hop, in my opinion. And at the end of the day, what we realize is that music is inside them. It's their heartbeats, right? It's the ability to beatbox. And at one point, we get Poppy asking, "Let me hear you sing." It's within you. And that's how they regain their colors, their music. Not because the strings come back, but because they realize that the strings may have been the inspiration, but the music is now within them and it can never leave. And I see that as a metaphor for the desire and ability to connect to each other and to the world around us. And whether they meant to create this metaphor or not, I don't care. That's how I see it. This idea of that desire, that ability, it's already inside us. And the only thing that keeps us from singing, in that case, the only thing that keeps us from singing is our own fear that our voice won't be heard or won't be appreciated or won't be accepted. that our differences will be the thing that makes it so another person doesn't want to connect to us. And what Trolls World Tour is telling us, I mean, other than just being a really fun movie, and I mean, I love it when I like read critics' reviews about these like really fun kids movies, which a lot of them have some really amazing themes and ideas that I would rather be watching than, you know, say the Fast and the Furious. That's just me. But I love it when some of these critics like give these movies just like really harsh sort of reviews, as if the point of the movie wasn't to like have a good time and feel good at the end and have a nice message presented to you in a really fun way. And that, I mean, that is what movies like Trolls are here for, as well as movies like Trolls World Tour, and it certainly accomplished it. So I'm grateful for this lovely little cinematic masterpiece. I thought it was really fun. I love this message of honoring our differences, and in honoring those differences, being accepting and open so that other people can fulfill this desire and this need to connect to each other, because it really is within us. And we've lived for a long time in a society that's perpetuated us to kind of like disconnect from each other, because if we are competing with each other, then we are essentially disconnected from each other, especially if we're competing with each other in the way that people tend to compete with each other in the society. So also, you know, it's not like we live in a society that's super capitalizes off of our differences and off of the things that we are really good at, and it's kind of up to us to go, oh, I'm really good at this, let me push this. And it's my hope that someday we do live in a society where from the get-go, you know, kids who love math are getting into math and deeper levels of math right away, so that they can become their mathematician selves and start that journey by the time that they're 16, not the time that they're 25, because they had to go through college for 4 years not realizing how much they love math, because for their whole lives that wasn't a thing, you know? So it's movies like Trolls, I think, that teaches kids that differences are important, but they are also not things that have to keep us apart. They can actually bring us together. And most importantly, that the connection from human to human, from human to nature, human to universe, human to earth, it's all there. We're the ones who have to tune into it. And we're the ones who have to take that deep breath, tune into that desire and that ability to connect, and sing it out. And voices will talk back, or rather, sing back. Thank you so much for watching and for sticking with me for this video. Normally I keep my videos under 15 minutes, but for my movie reviews, I tend to just let them roll. So thank you so much. And of course, like, subscribe for more, leave me a review, click the little bell button so you know every time that a video comes out. Check out my website, mysticalmac.com, and of course, follow me on social media at Mac Guerrero. I will talk to you guys next time.